let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often. So I'm not gonna say something that I do not agree with.
Race has nothing to do with color. I ain't stupid, because there's a bunch of you black Anglo-Saxons.
Hi, welcome to the show. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. My name is Reid Waters, and I'm troubled. I mean, y'all heard what Byron Donalds said.
You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together. That's right. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are.
Now, I hit him to the white meat already. The link is in the description. A couple of y'all told me it was even worse than Hakeem Jeffries.
Mr. Speaker, it has come to my attention that a so-called leader has made the factually inaccurate statement that black folks were better off during Jim Crow. That's an outlandish, outrageous, and out-of-pocket observation. We were not better off when a young boy named Emmett Till could be brutally murdered without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when black women could be sexually assaulted without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when people could be systematically lynched without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when children could be denied a high-quality education without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when people could be denied the right to vote without consequence because of Jim Crow. How dare you make such an ignorant observation? You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
But like my mama and Bobby Womack used to say, actually no, Bobby Womack said, you shouldn't trust me so much, and he was right about that. You know what? Like Sam Cooke should have told Bobby Womack the cover-up is worse than the crime.
Okay, let's talk about that. Jim Crow lasted roughly from 1867 after the Civil War to 1968. Is there a specific period between 1867 and 1968 that you thought was this golden era for black families, or a time that was good for black families?
I know. June 22nd, 1938. Yeah, the night that Joe Louis knocked out Max Schmeling. Just that night. Yeah, just that one night. Because by the 23rd, it went right back to being 1938.
Joy, I never said that. And see, this is where the gaslighting comes in.
I'm going to read what you said.
All I was talking about was the marriage rates.
Stop. No,
Joy,
that's not what you said. Let's play what you said. Play what he said. Play what he said.
Families. You're saying I said it was the golden era. I never said that.
I'm going to play what you said.
I said that it was better for black families. I never said that. I said
play what he said.
Play what I said.
Play what he said.
Okay, so I'm confused. I mean, you didn't use the words golden era, but you intimated that it was a golden era. You intimated that it was a better time for a black family. So I'm trying to understand exactly what your beef is. Were you saying that the black families were together and that was worse? I mean, I missed that second part of the video. Oh my, during Jim Crow, the black families were together. And let me tell you, coming home after a long day's work and having to deal with your whole black family, my goodness, I never could. And that's why I don't.
I just want to, just to clarify my questioning of you. Sure. I mean, I understand that this idea that you said it was better, you didn't use the words better. But when you talk about that time period, you're suggesting that because the black family was together, they were better off than they are now.
See, this is the problem, Abby.
So are you saying that that's not the case? That the black family was not better off when they were, in your words, together?
Abby, let me put it to you like this.
In the Jim Crow era.
Let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often.
Now, here you have a man saying he's one of the better communicators, going on a whole press tour about how his words were misconstrued. And honestly, as sad as it is, it's true. He is one of the better communicators in the Republican Party.
We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
Let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often. So I'm not going to say something that I do not agree with.
So you're not going to say anything that you don't agree with? So why are you doing this whole cleanup apology toward him? I don't understand. Like, what you here for then if you didn't say nothing that you didn't agree with? We all saw the video, so if you agree with it, just let it ride. Oh, I get it. I get it. So you needed a reason to get out of the house.
Last question, and then I'm going to let you go. Last question. We're out of time,
Sure,
but I'm going to give you one more question. During Jim Crow, could your family have existed? You are in an interracial marriage. Your wife is a white conservative activist. Could your family have existed at all during Jim Crow?
Oh, you gonna kill me, Joy Reid. That was good. That was good.
During Jim Crow, could your family have existed? You are in an interracial marriage. Your wife is a white conservative activist. Could your family have existed at all during Jim Crow?
No, it could not, Joy, and we all know that. But that's why I am blessed to live in America today as opposed to America during that time. But we cannot ignore the realities of not having fathers in homes. That is important for Black people today and all people today as we move forward for a better America.
We are out of time. What I'm grateful for is that we do not live in the Jim Crow era and that fathers do not face the threat of lynching.
I'm very grateful of that.
Perhaps don't bring up Jim Crow when you're trying to make that example. Representative Byron Donalds, thank you for being here.
Oh, shocking. They brought up fathers in the homes. It must be a Black conservative. I tell you, they put that talking point in a hologram and Black conservatives just come flocking. Y'all cannot make an appearance without referencing fathers in the home. Now, I addressed this very point in my Black conservatives piece. I'll put the link in the description. I hope you check that out. But Byron Donalds, where did the fathers go? I'm just curious. Where did all the fathers go? Where did all the Black fathers go? It's just a million-man march traveling around the country and they just never at home? Is that what's going on? Is this some sort of yoga retreat that they all have gone to for the last 50 years? I'm trying to figure out where all the fathers went. I'm trying to figure out exactly where you like to mention fathers in the home. Where did they go? So if we want to talk about the crooked criminal justice system, or if we want to talk about discrimination in the housing market, or discrimination in the job market, the things that make it more difficult for fathers to be in the home and provide for their families, no. We just want to mysteriously talk about fathers in the home. Well, since this was your golden age where you're talking about Jim Crow, were the fathers in the home then? Huh? Because the fathers were able to be just plucked out of the home with no justice whatsoever, no investigation, no value placed on them by the state. That was Jim Crow. You know, the glory days that you speak of, with so many fathers in the home that were secure in their ability to stay there. Is that what you're talking about?
And if you're actually going to compare economic policies and public policies between the 45th president and the 46th president, it's without question they were better under the 45th.
Well, look, I mean,
so if you're going to examine today, hold on, but Abby, if you're going to examine today in America and where we're going as Americans, then you have to have the right set of economic policies and the right set of public policies. I mean, Abby, you've been interrupting me the entire interview. I'm just trying to have a conversation.
I'm going to interrupt you on the facts, Congressman. The Black unemployment rate was the lowest in American history under Joe Biden just last year. The poverty rate for Black people is the lowest under Joe Biden.
All right, this man is totally out of material. I'll take it from here, Abby, Phillip, with a shout out to Michael Harriot at the Griot, who did a deep dive on just how loud and wrong Byron Donalds was. Now, he said Black families were conservative, or at least voted conservatively. Meanwhile, most Black people couldn't even vote under Jim Crow. So what is you talking about? According to U.S. Census data, between 1880 and 1960, the majority of black Americans lived in the South, specifically in states that disenfranchised African American voters, which is why the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you know, that little tiny thing that married black folks to the Democratic Party. Yeah, that's why the Civil Rights Act of 1964's pre-clearance requirement prohibited these states from changing their voting laws without the Department of Justice's permission. It is impossible to know what the majority of black Americans wanted under Jim Crow if they couldn't vote. And that's not to mention the ones who could vote did it under severe intimidation. So is that what you're taking as law when it comes to where black people were politically? Something that you cannot calculate and something that was rarely done, and if done, was done under significant duress. I think Kim Jong-un bragging about his voter turnout and the percentage he got thinks that that is crooked. That is all the way left. That is like my wife bragging to me about my 2 kids voting her as our favorite parent. There's just no justice in that. There is absolutely nothing right about that, although they probably would do that. I think they probably would do that. That's why we don't have elections here in my house. But even if we consider the votes of black people who did vote, there was never a time in U.S. history when the majority of black voters supported conservative politics. Shortly after the Civil War, Southern Republicans initiated the anti-black Lily White movement to prevent black voters from gaining control of the party. Meanwhile, conservative Democrats didn't allow black people to attend their conventions officially until 1924. Now, although a majority of black voters supported Franklin Roosevelt's campaign, it wasn't until 1948 that most black voters identified as Democrats, 77% at the time. And by then, white voters had fled the Democratic Party because it was no longer conservative. So help me out with something, conservatives. On the one hand, you always like to call yourselves the party of Lincoln, right? We are the party of Lincoln, and you point to, and rightfully so, you point to the Democratic Party's very, very racist history and the fact that a lot of the vigilantism which victimized black people during that time was done by so-called Democrats. That's something that you love to throw out there. But here you have Byron Donalds claiming that black people were conservative at the time, and the conservative party would have been the Democrats. You know, the party that you love to point to chasing black people all around the South. So which one is it? Which one is it? Do you want to take credit for being the party of Lincoln, or do you want to own conservatism going back to the Civil War? You cannot have it both ways. Y'all absolutely love, y'all switch up more than 50 Cent. You really did. You switch up more than 50 Cent. I cannot follow your arguments. And for those of my viewers that were born before a certain date, they switch up more than the band Switch. How about that? Now, if he wanted to assert that black families fared better at the time, how about the fact that in 1900, white households had about 9 times the wealth of black households? This disparity remained unchanged throughout Jim Crow, according to the Wealth of Two Nations, the U.S. Racial Wealth Gap, 1860 to 2020. However, in 2022, the average white family had $100 for every $15 held by black households. Also under Jim Crow, tax dollars from black families funded segregated education systems that increased the generational wealth of black families. Like in the case of 1940 South Carolina, where black citizens made up almost 49% of the population, but the state constitution mandated segregated schools. Black K-12 schools were valued at $12.9 million, while white schools were worth nearly 5 times as much. Jim Crow's legalized theft extended beyond education as black families' tax dollars funded libraries, hospitals, parks, and public facilities they couldn't even use. Their federal taxes funded scholarships and home loans for white veterans, excluding black veterans from the GI Bill, and New Deal programs used black taxpayer money to provide white people jobs, build redline neighborhoods, and create whites-only suburbs. Which brings us to the family.
You believe fundamentally that it was those policies in the mid-1960s that led African Americans down a worse road.
Well, Bill, let's be clear. It's not about belief, it's the empirical fact. The marriage rate in Black America declined rapidly after the passage of a lot of the Great Society policies. So it was destructive.
Now, Donalds is partially right here that the rate of black marriages has declined since Jim Crow. But the percentage of black children born to unmarried mothers has also dramatically increased. However, these statistics are true for every racial demographic. That's right. The thing that he is holding us responsible for is true for every racial demographic. Is there anything else that you want to hold us accountable for, Byron Donalds? I mean, if that's what we're doing, if we want to point to a statistic and take it completely out of any context, you want to blame us for the decline in country music? Huh? You want to blame us for the opioid crisis? I got a good one. How about migrant crime? How about that? Yeah, you want to blame black folks for migrant crime? I wouldn't put it past a black conservative. Now, Byron Donalds' definition of family is based on marriage statistics, but researchers found no significant differences in how unmarried black families interact with their children compared to other races. The only notable difference is that white fathers spend significantly fewer days per month with their children than black fathers. Now I'm finished with you, Byron Donalds. At some point, I'll do a deep dive because I haven't actually done justice to what got us here and exactly how you made your way down the path of embarrassment and shame to sit in front of us at the podium as the #1 disappointment. But for right now, I'm gonna let Paul Mooney finish it.
Race has nothing to do with color. I ain't stupid. Because there's a bunch of you black Anglo-Saxons. That skin is black, but that brain is white. And when I get mad at you, guess what I call you? You graham cracker motherfucker.